Hello and welcome to the Monday Agenda. We celebrate bilateral relationships between Tanzania and embassies that are here in Tanzania, and today we are highly privileged, the Monday Agenda, to visit the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany here in Tanzania. And on the program with me is the Charge d'Affaires of the embassy, Jörg Herrera. Welcome to the program.
Awesome, thank you very much for having me.
It's really very nice to have you.
Thank you.
So I understand that the embassy of Germany has been in Tanzania for a long time. Not only in Tanzania, but you've been doing operations in sub-Saharan Africa for a long time, but our focus now on the Monday Agenda today is Tanzania. How would you describe the relationship between our two countries?
As you said, we have been here for a long time as an embassy, but actually our bilateral relations with Tanzania go back much further. We have currently deep and very respectful relationship. We are grown-up partners, so to say. But actually our relationship started in the colonial period, at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. It was a short but intense period, and from this period you can still see landmarks here in Tanzania, whether it's the railway, whether it's the bomas. And after that period, then of course what's also still visible today is the presence of the German Democratic Republic, of the GDR, during the Cold War times, which when they had a very close relationship, Tanzania and the GDR. If you go to Zanzibar, you see the German blocks there. Correct. It's a very popular housing still today, which was built in fact by the German Democratic Republic. But looking at today and based and built on that long-standing mutual relationship, we are very strong and very trustful partners. And in the political field, there's a good exchange of high-level contacts. We've had our federal president in 2015 on a state visit to Tanzania. We have had visits of our foreign ministers. The last visit of our foreign minister, Heiko Maas, was in fact in May last year. So there is a lot of exchange. We've had a high-level contact between our two heads, our Chancellor Merkel and His Excellency the President Magufuli, since they were not able to meet in person. There was telephone call in which they discussed the most pressing issues only a couple of months ago. And we have huge interest by members of parliament in Germany on Tanzania. In the last 7-8 months, we've had 6 delegations alone from the parliament in Germany to Tanzania, which shows the great interest in the region and of course in Tanzania. Part of our relationship also, of course, is development cooperation.
That's correct.
And over the many years, we have invested over 2 billion euros in development cooperation with Tanzania, and we consider us and Tanzania being equal partners when it comes to that. And then we have cooperation in other areas as well, and if I may just highlight one, that's in the security field. We have a small contingent of members of the German armed forces here, only a few number of people. But they support the Tanzanian People's Defense Forces in the medical field. And thereby we acknowledge and we commend Tanzania for being so active and playing such an important role in the UN peacekeeping missions in Africa. And this is our way of contributing to that.
How are you supporting actually the government, the current government, towards realizing this vision of Tanzania becoming a middle income state through industrialization?
There's a number of as you know, there's a number of German companies here already present in the market, and some of them also investing here and also thinking of expanding the investment. Of course, with every investment come industries, and not only the industry that you create yourself, not only the company that you invest yourself, but also you can create actually clusters for more industries. We have increasing interest in Germany in doing business with Tanzania, on the trade side, of course, but also on the investment side. And in April last year, we opened an office of the German Chambers of Commerce abroad. We opened the office here in Dar es Salaam in order to facilitate contacts between German companies and Tanzanian companies, and also German companies with the Tanzanian government and government institutions like the investment center. We bring trade missions here. to Tanzania. We see ourselves as facilitators for joint businesses, but also when it comes to investment. We are present at the Sawa, the international trade fair. We've been present for many years, and this is always a highlight for us. We have a number of German blue chip companies here. We have Siemens and BASF, but actually our greatest potential, I see that with the German medium-sized companies, which we call back home the Mittelstand.
Okay.
These are the companies who could really invest here more. But of course, what they need is a good business climate. Now the government is aware of that. They have said numerous times that they're working to improve the business climates. We're very grateful for that, and we support that because this is one of the key elements to attract foreign investors. Okay. But we work together, of course, with the Ministry of Industry and Trade. We work together with the Tanzania Investment Center in order to support improvement of the investment climate, in order also to bring German companies here. And this is one thing. The other thing, of course, is the high potential, the large potential that the EAC has. Now, for Tanzania as an entry point to the market, as a regional hub. So integration within the EAC, of course, would further facilitate and support the industrial agenda here. Yeah. And we have one, if I may just add that, sure. Because there's one example that I would like to highlight. This is we've been in ongoing negotiations with the Tanzanian side for the investment of it's a joint Danish-German investment for a fertilizer industry, for a fertilizer plant in the southern part of Tanzania. Yes. And I guess we're in the final stages, and that would really enable the region to benefit enormously, not only agriculture-wise by the fertilizer that you produce, but also, of course, because we're talking about a $3 billion investment, which is huge for Africa, which is enormous for this region. But that would attract, of course, more businesses, and this would lead to a better industrialization of that really poor part of Tanzania. Yes. So we're very hopeful that we can realize that in the near future.
But I want to understand the trade missions that you facilitated. Have they been towards a specific sector? Are they general? Because I think if in my opinion, one of the major areas we really need serious help is agriculture, because it sees more than 65% of the population employed in the sector. Now, I'm not sure if the trade missions are directed towards, facilitating value addition, issues of, industries in the agricultural sector, and stuff like that, markets, packaging, and trade. We tend to produce good coffee, we produce good cassava, we produce, I think our products tend to be superior, but there's a place where we lag. I'm sure if those are addressed, then it's an enormous contribution to the country. My question is, are they directed towards a specific sector, for instance agriculture, or they're just general trade missions?
It's either or, actually.
Okay.
We have had in the recent past, we've had one trade mission organized by the Bilateral in Germany. That was not focused to a certain sector. We also had a trade mission from the government of Bavaria, actually, organized. And that also was not focused on a certain sector. But then we know, and we have brought trade missions for specific fields, and we know that this is then we're already at the next stage. When we create interest, when we have the interest by a certain German company, and they've been here on a general trade mission, so to say, and we have their interest, then we support them having a closer look at the market. And if possible, of course, we want to get these sector trade missions.
Absolutely.
Which look at specific sectors and have more or less similar questions. And we put them in contact with the people who actually can answer these specific questions.
Absolutely.
When it comes to trade and or investment. And what you say is totally correct. This also in our view, the agricultural sector here has enormous potential. And there's so much more that it can be used for, and it's being addressed by the government. So whether it comes to packaging, whether it comes to possibilities of cooling food, storage, all that has to do with it, and we're ready to support. But again, as I said, we cannot order. We cannot tell the German companies to come here. We can make it attractive for them, and when they come here, we provide the best possible facilitation.
What about the energy sector, for instance? It's an ingredient, a key ingredient towards industrialization. And I can't say we are there. That's why we have the Sigla Gorge coming up. But I mean, I'm looking onto Tanzania in general, and I'm looking onto all the opportunities that there are. I'm thinking Germany could really put a muscle onto, boosting supply of energy, resource, you name it.
We have had back home in Germany, we're going through a transition away from nuclear and fossil fuels towards more energy efficiency, number one, so that you actually consume less energy by gaining the same results, and at the same time focusing on renewables.
Renewable energy.
Today, 1/3 of our energy generation back home in Germany comes from renewables.
Wow, okay.
So we have gained over the years a lot of experience and expertise, especially in the field of renewables. And we stand ready to support Tanzania when it comes to that. We think that the country has enormous potential for renewables, especially solar energy, but also wind.
Hydro.
And this exactly, and this country will have an enormous energy demand in the future. So we offer our expertise, and I think we have a lot to offer. Because we gained a lot of experience in the past years.
I believe so. And any directives towards the transportation sector, because we, as a country, I think we could really use some help in local, as in inland and to the regions, because if we do very good in agriculture and then the crops just lag in the farms, they need to access the port, they need to access the markets. Is it something also you see of potential?
I see a lot of demand there, because if the country is focused on the agricultural sector in its economy, if you want to bring your products to the market, you need to get them there. So you need good roads. You need roads that you can pass even in the rainy season, and otherwise the crops will turn bad or it would take too long. In order to maintain the quality, you have to get them to the markets and to the ports for export also, in the best and fastest possible way. Whether it's through roads network, whether it's through railway. There's many options, and there's a lot of demand here in this country. But I think the president is addressing that, because industrialization comes with infrastructure needs.
We could always use an extra support from our partners like yourself.
Well, we do provide support, but you see, we're one of many partners, and our focus is not so much on infrastructure.
Okay.
Our focus is more on other fields, and I guess we'll come to that.
Oh, we'll get to that. Now, you also mentioned the existing German companies in Tanzania, the trade missions, the ones that have already occurred or the ones that are yet to come. I'm looking on to one of the major areas we lag behind is on the technological transfer. And not only technology, but technical know-how as well. Now, as we drive the economy towards middle-income state through industrialization, I think majority of the people in Tanzania will require that technical skill. Is this an area that you also are keen on to assisting the government towards ensuring that we acquire the necessary skills to drive the industries in Tanzania?
I think there's a lot we can offer there, because it's actually one of our export goods is our vocational training. And our vocational training is partly done in practice in the companies and in the industry, and partly also in school. So they kind of complement each other, and our experience with that vocational training, the German style, has been very, very good at home, of course, but it's also been exported throughout the world. So there's something we can offer. We are already cooperating in this field, but it's not our focus.
Okay.
But it could become our focus, because when you talk about industrialization, you need skilled labor.
That's
and you
correct.
need people who can, if you want to transfer technology, want to transfer know-how, you need to have the capacity, the recipient capacity,
correct,
to take that on.
You mentioned earlier on about the support you have for East Africa community, and Tanzania is very well positioned as an entry point to the integration, the regional integration. How do you see the people from East Africa, the member states, and especially from Tanzania benefiting? How do you advise that the people of Tanzania, the people of Kenya, Uganda, Southern Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi can benefit from such an integration? Because, you know, some of the challenges, markets, for instance, could actually be won within the integration. What's your take?
We've had gained a lot of experience back home through the European Union in this regard. And coming to our participation, our cooperation in this, we've been long-standing partners of the EAC for many years. We have provided technical assistance, financial support over 300 million euros
including building the headquarters in 2012.
Headquarters building in Arusha,
yes.
Absolutely. But we do believe in the value and the political, economic, and social value of deeper and better integration. So we do support the vision that the EAC has to become a prosperous, stable, and politically united East Africa. But we also know that what is on paper is on paper.
It is.
But is it tangible for the people, yes or no? So we have great progress when it comes to policies, agreements, and regulations. But the implementation at the national level is still a challenge. And for example, non-tariff barriers and others. We have learned from our experience within the EU that when integration happens on paper, the people don't see the benefit from it.
Correct.
And that can only lead to frustration. And the same goes as it happened in the EU. The same applies to the EAC. Now, if a Tanzanian national could move freely to Kenya and work there, and without any bureaucratic hassle, he will see the benefit. If a student from Uganda would come to Tanzania, be able to study at a university and have his degree actually acknowledged in all East African community countries, he would see the benefit.
Correct.
And that could lead to further integration, and that could, of course, also mean that when a German company looks at the Tanzanian market, that's one thing. But when it sees the benefit of being able to reach out from here, producing here, reaching out to the entire East African community with 5 other countries and with a population of 180 million people, I guess, then that company would see the benefit. And that would then bring the real value to each individual country. So it's improved economic situation for each member state through integration. And therefore what you need, as I said, is what needs to happen is you need more national implementation of the agreements and the resolutions that come from the EAC.
What is this one thing, in your opinion, that Tanzania, EAC rather, could learn from the EU, in your opinion?
To be patient. To be patient but determined at the same time. The EU did not develop into what it is overnight.
Absolutely.
Not even in 5 years, not in 10 years. It took decades. And we see this with many markets around the world, whether it's Mercosur in South America, or even when it's the EAC here, that you tend to rush, you tend to take the third step before the second step. So number one, patience is needed, but also determination, because you don't want standstill. You want to continuously continuously improve. You want to move ahead, even if it's by small steps. And it takes many small steps, not one big step, in order to achieve the goals. This, I think, can be learned from the European Union. It's a slow process, it's a steady process, and for some it's a painful process. You cannot just get benefits from a community like that. You also have to give. And this is where I guess where we will see progress in the near future within the EAC.
Just to understand, your support to the government of Tanzania is wide, big, but you also have focused on the issues of water and sanitation, for instance. You mentioned earlier on about the support on the medical side as well. How do you see that coming? Is it yielding the results you anticipated? Is it progressing? Could it be better? Is it better?
We've been strong and successful development cooperation partners for a long time. And every few years we assess our mutual progress, and we determine where to move in the next years to come. And over the years we have developed our focus jointly, the Tanzanian government and the German government deciding to focus on three main sectors. One is health, you mentioned water, sanitation, and the third one is biodiversity.
Biodiversity.
And when it comes to health, for instance, we've been strong partners for 15 years.
Okay.
And only last month we signed an agreement with the Ministry of Finance and Planning to strengthen the national health insurance system through digitalization, for instance. So we're really moving into the modern periods. In the health field, we aim at supporting Tanzania in the field of maternal and newborn health, something that's extremely important. We yield tangible results there. We improve together the quality of service and improved obstetric services as well. And we have this program called Tumini La Mama, in which we have supported over 1 million women and their newborns who have benefited from comprehensive health insurance package in over 1,000 health facilities. So this is really tangible for the people.
It is.
This is the health sector. I could talk much more about these sectors, but I know we only have limited time.
Yes.
But you do get the feeling that bilateral cooperation, development cooperation, is one of our main focuses of German policy with Tanzania. In the water sector, we have cooperated for decades. We have contributed to installation of water services for 18 million people in rural areas and 10 million in urban areas. And just a few weeks ago, His Excellency the President inaugurated the Sumbawanga Urban Water Supply and Sanitation Project, which is co-financed by Germany and the European Union.
Wow.
And our main focus is to improve water and sanitation services in low-income urban areas, but also be climate sensitive with water resource management. Because only when you protect your water resources and you adapt to climate change, you will keep benefiting from it sustainably also, of course, in the future. But then, of course, biodiversity. And our engagement or our cooperation with Tanzania in biodiversity goes back a long time. It actually goes back to a friendship between the founder of this nation, Mwalimu Nyerere, with Professor Bernhard Jimmick, who was the president of the Frankfurt Zoological Society. And these both men were visionaries when it came to conservation issues. And thanks to both of them, the Serengeti National Park has been protected ever since. And Serengeti has been made famous in back home in Germany. So Tanzania, for a long time, even East Africa, was kind of known as, oh, this is where the Serengeti is back home in Germany. Me as a child, we found out through these television programs by Professor Jimmick about this wonderful place of this world. Now, what we do there now, of course, is number one, we contribute to the conservation efforts. We have contributed over $100 million US dollars since 2012 alone, so even in
Wow.
the last 7 years. And our common objective is to the sustainable use of natural resources, because this is Serengeti. This is globally significant ecosystem, and it has to remain intact for future generations, but also to continuously provide income for Tanzania through nature-based tourism. And also, we help in improving infrastructure for these protected areas. We build ranger accommodations. We provide vehicles, even planes, digital surveillance of protected areas, and so on.
Oh, fantastic! It's really great to know. Let me take you back home a little bit. It's 30 years since the collapse of the Berlin Wall. You will be marking the day on the 9th of November in a week or two. It's not a big celebration. But my viewers would really wish to understand a little bit about the collapse of the Berlin Wall, which is being marked 30 years since it collapsed. Would you tell us a little bit more about it?
It led to German reunification on 3rd of October 1990, and that's actually what we celebrate. This is our, what you would call, National Day. But the turning point for the reunification of Germany, actually, of course, a turning point was 9th of November 89, when what we say the wall came down. The wall has stood for 28 years.
28 years.
28 years. It was built in 61, and it divided families, friends, neighbors. It divided the city, and it divided the country, because we were always one German nation, but we were divided into East Germany and West Germany, and Berlin, being like an island within East Germany, also was divided by that wall. So it was a symbol of the Cold War also. And I visited Berlin many times back then with my father when I was a boy, and it was just enormous to see this massive border complex within the city, 100 meters or so wide, with a wall and fences and guard towers, and that was really, for the people in Berlin, it became almost normal, the sight of this. But for me, coming from the south of West Germany as a young boy, I always stood there in awe, saying, "What is this, really?" You know. But the true significance of the fall of the wall is, of course, it was the end of the Cold War. It eventually led to the end of the Cold War. The Eastern Bloc subsequently broke up entirely, so to say, and the European Union, gained more strength and power. Yeah.
Okay. So where were you then during the collapse?
Well, on 9th November in '89, I was a young diplomat at the German embassy in Poland.
Already,
it was my first assignment abroad.
Okay, all right.
And we actually saw the events unfold right in front of us. You see, the wall didn't come down or didn't fall, as we say, overnight. It was a process that led to it. We had in the Soviet Union Mikhail Gorbachev as the new leader who promoted reform in the Soviet Union. So the people in East Germany took note of that, and they wanted reforms as well. They wanted finally to travel freely. They wanted to decide their own fate. They didn't want to be supervised by the Secret Service anymore. They wanted freedom, basically. And the unique thing about being able to travel was that the people in East Germany were not allowed to travel to West Germany.
Were
to
not
Western
allowed.
countries. Not allowed to, but they could travel freely to
Okay.
Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic. And in the months leading up to the fall of the wall, they used this. They traveled to Prague, the capital of Czechoslovakia, and took refuge in the West German embassy there. And also in our embassy, where I was working in Warsaw, people came and took refuge because they could travel freely from East Germany to Poland, to Hungary, and to Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
And there was, I think at the peak of it, we had 7,000 East German refugees in our West German embassy in Prague. We had 2,500 in Warsaw. We had a large number in Budapest, in Hungary, in our embassy. And the pressure, of course, was increasing. And at the same time, you had huge demonstrations in Leipzig and other cities of Eastern Germany for people demanding freedom.
Okay.
And all this finally led, it's like a pressure pot, and there's more and more pressure, but there was not a valve. So there had to be a solution to that case. There had to be a solution to that situation. And this is where the West German government and the East German government had to sit down together and discuss jointly with the Czechoslovakian government and the Polish government solutions for these refugees who took refuge in our West German embassies.
Okay.
And so in order to solve that crisis, people were actually allowed to leave gradually from Prague and from Warsaw on trains through East Germany to West Germany. Now you must imagine this is very bizarre, because the people got on the train in Warsaw, and I actually accompanied one of these trains back then as a representative of the German government. People got on the train in Poland, and the train was in Warsaw, and the train was sealed. It was physically sealed. People could not get in or out until it reached the East German border. And the people in the train were so afraid when they had to travel through East Germany that they would be stopped and taken out of the train by security forces. In the end, all went well, and all of these trains reached their destination in West Germany. And that, I think, then that was the decisive point that really led to the long-lasting solution for East Germany, which is actually that the wall came down. And that day, November 9, we had actually in Poland the state visit of German Chancellor Helmut Kohl. And when he received the news of the wall coming down, with the border within Berlin was opened, he immediately traveled back to Berlin and in order to personally witness what is happening, which is of course a turning point in history. Me myself, I went to Berlin, I think the weekend after or 10 days after. I just also wanted to see what's happening there. How does it look? And there you had a lot of people trying to chip pieces with hammer out of the wall as a reminder for them, you know. And it was just enormous to see the joy of the people, West and East, people from West and East Berlin, about this occasion. It's always a remarkable day.
But how would you then now describe the new Germany? Now there's no war in between, so it's one nation. Are things better than they were before? Of course, with union, yes, but from your own experience.
Well, we have, it has been a remarkable change for Germany as a nation. Of course, there came the question, what does that mean? Which role will the new Germany have in the world? And there were fears with President Mitterrand, there were fears with Margaret Thatcher, who did not want Germany to gain strength again, because they still saw Germany as a potential danger to peace and stability in this part of the world. Now, it was actually, and West Germany being part of NATO, East Germany being part of the Warsaw Pact, the question was, of course, how's that going to happen in the future? And it was actually Gorbachev who then decided to allow this unified Germany to be within NATO.
Okay.
So this actually marked clearly for us the future, where we're going to. Germany will be part of the West, so to say. And as I said before, the Warsaw Pact then eventually fell apart anyway. So we found our place deep within the European Union, and our Federal Chancellor Helmut Kohl made that very clear, that Germany's place, also to disperse fears from the French and from Great Britain, that Germany's place is firmly within Europe. And this is why also all these integration issues is what is still on our agenda today. If you want to see, if I may mention two foreign policy priorities for Germany. One is the further integration of Europe, the European Union, and the other one is also to contribute to peace and stability in the world. So through multilateralism.
Absolutely.
Because even now, in these days and times, leaders of the world are talking, or of countries are talking about becoming more unilateral. But we know that the future for a peaceful and stable world lies in multilateralism. You need joint effort, not singular effort. And in 2019, 2020, we are for 2 years we've been elected non-permanent members of the Security Council of the United Nations.
Okay.
And we also take up the EU presidency of the European Union in the second half of 2020. So we will for sure be able to promote this agenda in the coming years.
What lessons can Tanzania draw from this wonderful story about Germany, the new Germany?
We are partners in this. And as coming to what can we offer for the future Tanzania, and looking at the economic field, we've been talking about this. It's experience and expertise when it comes to energy, to renewables. It's vocational training. I think all these are ingredients that this country needs in order to reach the goals of the President of Middle Income Country 2025, but also to satisfy the future demand in energy and power in this country. Now, what can we learn from Tanzania? And I think we have some very, very important topics here. Number one, it's religious peace and freedom in this country. You have the coexistence of religions, and which is highly promoted by the government and by by the president in person. You also have something that we're struggling with in Europe. You have a culture of welcoming refugees.
Yes.
And we in the European Union are in no place to say how it should be done, how it should not be done, because we are struggling with this ourselves. We have discussions on whether we should continue to accept refugees from Syria and Afghanistan into the European Union. Whereas here we see that Tanzania has been welcoming refugees from its neighbors, from Burundi, DRC, Congo, Rwanda, for decades. And I think this is something where we can also draw our positive conclusions from and learn from. And the third thing, of course, it brings me back to Professor Jimmick and Mwalimu Nyerere. It's 30% of the national territory is preserved. And is protected, and the ban of plastic bags. I think this is also, it's a minor detail, but it's also things that we can learn. 30% of the territory preserving natural resources. We in Germany, I think we're in single digits, low single digits. So this is also something that not only we, Germany, but also our friends around the world can learn from Tanzania.
You were watching the Monday Agenda, and I was highly privileged to have an interview with the Charge d'Affaires of the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany, and I was talking to Jörg Herrera, and our longest point or agenda was basically how both our countries can enjoy the bilateral relationship, and indeed, Tanzania has a lot to learn from the Germans. Being the industrial muscle of the world, you can't speak industrialization without mentioning Germany, either the industry or the technology or the country itself. Thank you for watching. Until next time, you're watching the Monday Agenda. I'm your host, Austin Makani, and thank you for the great interview.
Thank you very much for having me,
Austin.
Austin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.